Welcome to the podcast, Restore Yourself, Restore Your Marriage, where it's all about discovering the thoughts that get you in the mood, the thoughts that get you out of the mood, and how creating a deeper connection with yourself creates a deeper connection with your spouse. I'm your coach, Shelly Anderson, coaching you through life, love, and intimacy. This is episode number 200, The Rush of Foreplay. Yes, I love this topic. Okay, so I hurt myself slightly the other day. Nothing big, nothing major. And it was obviously affecting me just slightly throughout the day. And I had to be a little more cautious, right? A little more careful. And by the end of the day, as we were winding things down and all the kids were in bed, I remember thinking, I wonder how this is going to affect the sexy shenanigans later on tonight. I was looking forward to them, and I did start to wonder what kind of toll this would take. So what was interesting is as my husband and I approached intimacy that night, I remember thinking, oh, Shelly, you better take things a little bit slow, right? You got to slow things down. You need to pay attention to how your body feels. You don't want to make the injury worse. And you want to make sure that you are being careful and that you can enjoy things. So I realized that during the process, I had a heightened sense of body awareness. I was doing a lot of checking in with myself. How does my body feel? How do things feel? Am I putting too much weight on this arm or this hand or my leg or this side of my body? I was asking myself a lot of questions, and not negative questions, but these were actually positive that really allowed me to dive deeper into the experience. And this is so fascinating. The experience was so fascinating to me because even though it seemed like I was approaching things with a careful attitude and a more cautious attitude, it didn't take away from the experience. In fact, it actually made the experience quite awesome, quite fun. And I noticed a few things and I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to be doing a podcast on this. And as I was telling myself, hey, slow things down, take it easy, be aware of what you're doing, check in with yourself, this mindset of taking things a little bit slower, increasing my awareness and checking in with my body, tuning in, created an amazing experience where my husband and I ended up spending a lot more time on the making out. And yeah, we make out quite a bit, but we actually, because we were being a little bit cautious, because we were trying to be careful, we spent more time in the makeout process. And I wanted to talk about what happened as a result because it was actually quite fun. So I remember asking myself, like, how does this feel during the process? During the process, right? It wasn't just like a one-time, 15 seconds in, like, how does this feel? It was like throughout, I just kept checking in with myself. How does this feel? And every time I was like, okay, we're good. Things are good. There's no pain here. There's no pain there. My body is doing great. I was able to feel a little more relaxed, a little bit more comfortable, and to continue progressing and moving forward with confidence. What ended up happening is that because we spent so much more time making out, this creates way more time in foreplay. And I was like, oh my gosh, so many of my clients, when they are talking to me about some of the challenges they are facing with the sexual side of their relationship with their spouse, they are really conveying a high frequency of 2-minute sex. as if that is the norm. And really, this is happening a lot. And what ends up happening is that foreplay has been forgotten, right? It's been left out. It's been left out of the equation. And this is going to be key. Foreplay is key for female arousal. So if we're leaving it out, man, we're leaving female arousal out as well. So husbands are often really frustrated when their wife is like, I'm not that interested in sex. They don't seek it out. They don't initiate. They don't seem to enjoy it. And this is probably a big component, right? Foreplay is being forgotten. And the makeout is being forgotten, which is a huge part of foreplay. And there are a few things that also will get left out if foreplay is forgotten. The problem is we are rushing things, right? A 2-minute sexual experience is rushing foreplay, if not skipping it altogether. And so, in order to solve for that, we are going to need to slow things down, focus on foreplay, and spend more time making out. Man, remember when we were dating and we'd make out? Didn't it feel amazing? Oh my gosh. We forget about this, right? Now that we're married, we've got the marriage license, we've got the green light for sex, like go time. And we can forget how awesome it feels to actually make out. So I want to talk about this concept of rushing foreplay. What happens when we rush things? Well, to rush means to move forward speedily and sometimes without preparation. It can mean to urge to an unnatural speed. It can mean to perform in a short time. It can also mean to move in quickly on a player, right? This is like in sports, I think, especially football, to hinder, prevent, or block their progress, their opponent's progress. Now, what happens if we're rushing foreplay? That means we're moving too fast without preparation, right? We're not preparing the female body to become aroused. And if we're not aroused, then sex is not pleasurable. So we need to make sure we slow things down so that we can arouse the female body. We can prepare her body for an amazing sexual experience. If we are moving at an unnatural speed, right, it may be that men and their quick and spontaneous arousal, that is natural for them. But a 2-minute sexual experience is not natural for the female body to become aroused in that fast of a time. Can it happen? Yes, but only if you have the right ingredients taking place in the right order, and you got to know what those are. If you don't, then you definitely are going to need some more time. And that's why time is an element. And what I've found fascinating with these definitions is that when we rush, we can hinder, prevent, or block progress. That means when we're rushing, we can hinder, prevent, or block female arousal. Yes, this is so true. My female clients resonate with this so much. They're like, my body just never gets aroused. Right? And it's a challenge. And so when we skip steps, when we skip foreplay, and we go at an unnatural speed for women, we are blocking their arousal, and therefore female pleasure is blocked. No, no, no. Say it ain't so. Why would we rush a good thing? Why would we rush foreplay and making out? Now, do we know how to define foreplay, man, this can be one of those really gray areas, right? Because men are probably going to think it's one thing, women are probably going to think it's another. And there are a lot of, random definitions out there on the internets. But let's just start with a simple definition of foreplay. It is outer course, which means any activity that happens before intercourse. Have you guys ever heard the term outer course? I had totally forgotten about this until recently. I was at a doctor's office and I heard the term outer course. I was like, wow, it's not very often that you hear this term. But of course, it got me thinking and reflecting on outer course, right? That's part of foreplay, what's happening on the outside. And foreplay is meant to create the desire for sex and sexual arousal. This is a critical phase, especially for females. But another reason it's critical is because it heightens emotional intimacy and sexual pleasure. And it makes the sexual pleasure better and more fulfilling. It is a critical phase. What happens if we're used to these 2-minute sex experiences? We are skipping critical phases of the whole process, which is why women don't like it, right? We're like, I don't want to come back for more sex that sucks. So we really need to come back to focusing on foreplay. Now, there are some fabulous effects of foreplay. There is a psychological effect, which, get this, I really want everyone to pay attention to this. When we are able to focus on foreplay, we can lower female inhibitions when it comes to sex. Now, I'm just saying female inhibitions because most men are not having a lot of inhibitions when it comes to sex, right? They are all for it. It is often the women that are experiencing inhibitions. And so spending time in foreplay and making out can help lower those inhibitions. And why does that happen? It's because during the makeout process, we are increasing an emotional connection, right? We have slowed things down. Our brain can get on board and say, yeah, this is amazing. I forgot how awesome it feels to make out. I love this. I love making out. Man, it would be wonderful for the wives to have this thought in their mind. Oh, yes, I remember this. I enjoy making out. This is a wonderful thought to have in our brain. Man, if we could just sometimes stop focusing on the rush to have the orgasm and the pleasure and say, let's feel the foreplay. Let's feel our body getting flooded with all of those wonderful feelings. Then we appreciate our husband and we're like, man, it is so good to be with him in this space, doing this. I like this. I want more of this. Man, when we're able to just say, let's focus on the foreplay and the making out. Let's really hone in on that in the next week or for this month or for this year. Let's focus on foreplay. Man, it takes off some of the pressure of just the end result. And when we can really allow ourselves to sink in and those inhibitions get lowered, we enjoy it. We're like, yeah, I'm going to circle back around to that. I want more of that. And when we can enjoy the make out and the foreplay, then it's easy to go into sex, right? Now, there's also a biological effect that comes when we spend time making out. And that is that we can increase, I'm going to read this because it's not a word that rolls off the tongue easily. We can increase the neurohypophysical hormone. Now, what is that? That is the hormone that increases sperm count. Now, why would I say that, right? Why would I focus on that for a minute? But part of it is because men, I think, might like this concept, right? Increase your sperm count. And you can do that by not just having a 2-minute sexual experience and just like let's get to the orgasm and the pleasure, but like, wait a minute, let's slow things down and let's get the sperm count up. Let's increase that, right? Let's be a real man and impregnate the wife, right? This is our gift to humanity. We are going to continue to repopulate the earth, right? Even if we're not like in the business of having more babies, right? Like my husband and I, we're done having kids. But I think it's fun to entertain this idea, this concept of like, hey, I'm still able to contribute to the growth of humanity. I'm still fertile. And I love to think of my husband as being like so manly and building up that sperm. Like, let's get that count high. And we can do that just by spending more time making out, right? So I think this is a really fun way to think about things. We can have fun with it. It can be humorous and playful, and both spouses can have fun with this concept and really allow it to enhance your connection in a fun way. The third fabulous effect of foreplay is a physical one. And I think this is one of the key elements that is skipped for females is we need to increase blood flow. Foreplay increases the flow of blood. I love to think about it as being flooded with blood. And when I ask women, like, have you ever felt that where the genitals get that flooding? Do you feel that? And they're like, no. Why? Why is this happening? With men, it's obvious, right? When the penis gets flooded with blood, yeah, there's an erect penis. It's an outward sign. It's easy to see and recognize. Women can have the same experience in their clitoris and even in the vaginal walls. But because it's not like so visible on the outside, we often don't pay attention to it and we're often skipping it. So then it never takes place. Why are we doing this? Why are we ignoring the clitoris? The clitoris wants to be flooded with blood. The clitoris can have its own erection and become erect. It can become bigger. There's more surface area when that happens, when it can become flooded with blood. And what's the benefit of that? Well, then it can be stimulated much easier. And the clitoris can become more sensitive when it is stimulated. What? If we think that stimulating the clitoris and getting the woman to orgasm is challenging, perhaps we need to really take a look at this process. Like, hey, is the clitoris being flooded with blood? Is there any blood going there? If not, things could take a lot longer, right? So the other physical benefit is when we are in the process of slowing down, spending time in foreplay and making out. And I'm talking about initially making out without touching the genitals, right? Zero touch of the genitals, of the major erogenous zones that we're all aware of. Something else can happen, and that is that the lubricating of the female and the vagina can take place, right? Lubrication is released when we are able to spend enough time making out. And this is really good for sex. If we are lubricated and the penis can go in and out, without it being dry and ripping and tearing, well, that's going to be a more pleasurable experience. So instead of intercourse hurting, right, it's not going to hurt. And obviously that's going to be better. So there are wonderful and fabulous effects to foreplay and to making out. Have you guys ever heard the song by John Mayer called Your Body is a Wonderland? I actually love this song. And I love the very first line he has in it. And it's very simple. And all he says is, "We've got the afternoon." And then he says, "We've got our room for two." I think it's something like that. But I love this concept where he's saying, look, let's slow things down. Let's put things on hold. Let's clear our schedules. Right? We've got the afternoon. We've got the time. I love that he also talks about the room, right? Because it's like we're setting a scene. We're going to involve the senses. We're going to create an environment that is relaxed and calm and romantic and playful, right? We don't have all these things pressing in on us. And I really love this invitation, right? To just take the afternoon, right? Now, most of us, if we're parents, we're not doing this in the afternoon, although I highly recommend it. I love the afternoon delight because it is the unexpected. But let's say we're all at work, we're all busy, right? Maybe our sexy time really does come at night. We can still have the same approach, right? We've got time, right? We've got the evening. We've got our room. It's our special sexy place where we can do adult things together. And we don't have to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't have to worry about schedules. We don't need to worry about anything. I love that return to that concept, that preparation, right? We can do that. We can do that for ourselves. We don't need to wait around for anybody. We can do that. And I also wanted to bring up the topic of tantric sex. I used to, a long time ago, think tantric meant like, oh, we're heading down to some crazy kinky roads. Until I actually studied it and I was like, oh my gosh, tantric is beautiful and amazing because it talks about slowing things down. Tantric is 100% against the rush and the rushing of sex. It is about giving ourselves time. It is about giving our body time. It is about giving our senses time to be stimulated, to be touched. It's about giving our arousal the time to be turned on, to be instigated, to be awakened and invigorated, right? It's about giving time, not rushing time or giving little time. It's about giving plenty of time. And so I like the mantra. I use this for myself. Slow things down to heat things up. And so I would love to really offer each of you a challenge to slow your foreplay down and your making out time down. Give yourself time. Give yourself 10 to 15 minutes of just pure makeout. Man, focus on the kissing. Focus on what it feels like, right? Have we paid attention to what it feels like to have someone kissing right next to our mouth? It feels amazing. Focus on the skin. The skin is the biggest, the largest sex organ, right? Sometimes we forget that. Maybe we didn't even know that. During makeout, let's involve different parts of the skin. Let's include the skin. I wonder if we can really focus on the female's ability to feel the flood, right? Let's put this on the scale, right? Let's communicate. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Let's say at the beginning of a makeout session, we're like, it's 0 to 1, right? I feel nothing happening in the clitoris. But maybe after 5 minutes of making out, we're like, oh, wow, something is starting to happen. On a scale of 1 to 10, yeah, I'm feeling a 3 in the clitoris right now. Let's continue the process. Let's continue the fun. You make out some more, you check back in. What are we at right now? Oh, the clitoris is feeling tingly. It is swelling up. And now the mindset is starting to shift and say, hey, I want a little more of this. Desire is increasing. The arousal is increasing. I love to call this the dance of desire and arousal, where desire and arousal start to boomerang back and forth, right? They do this dance where the arousal increases and then the desire for sex increases. And then as the desire increases, the arousal increases. And then they start to go back and forth and everything's increasing. This is an amazing place to be for women, and women rarely experience it. They are missing out on this amazing experience. So I would love to invite all of you to feel the flood, especially for the women, right? Husbands, channel your wife, right? Allow her to feel the flood. Check in with her, ask her questions. And women can advocate for feeling this flood in their clitoris. Husbands, one part of tantric is learning to ride the arousal wave, right? Channel it. Channel this. Get aroused. Harness this. Channel it. Bridle it. And as you do, it is building, right? That tension, that sexual energy is building. Learn to do that, right? As it builds, allow it to decrease a notch, and then allow it to build up, and then allow it to decrease a notch. And as you're doing that, this gives your wife the time that she needs to also become aroused. Her clitoris needs more time for that blood to flow down there. This is an awesome place to be. And sometimes we don't talk about this, right? We don't talk about blood going to the vagina and to the clitoris. But we've got to put this back into the equation. We've got to get this foreplay on board so that this can take place. Foreplay allows females to feel the flood. Okay, really let that sink in. So this week, I want you to see if you can take on one tantric exercise, and I'm going to explain it to you right now. Sit across from your spouse with your legs crossed, right? So this already releases a lot of like expectations and obligations and duties. We're just going to do this for about 10 minutes and take each other's hands. And I want you to stare at each other and then just gently caress each other's palms, the palms of the hands. And then when you're done with the palms, switch over to the top of the hands and allow your senses to become alive in your skin. Pay attention, tune in, and then go in between the fingers. This feels amazing, right? But we don't ever think of the hands as being like arousing, but they totally can be, especially when we slow things down. So focus on the hands this week during your makeout session, or maybe even before your makeout session, right? Maybe focus on the hands for 10 minutes and then move into making out for 10 minutes. Wow. I bet the wife is going to get very aroused and then move into sex. And just really allow yourself to have fun and be relaxed and really connect with one another. Because remember, the more you restore this type of intimacy with yourself, the more you restore it with your spouse. Thank you so much for listening today, and I hope you will join me again next week.